Welcome, good morning to all of you. So we are excited to be discussing a great topic with all our leaders over here. So I'll get started without much ado. So one of the quotes from Bill Gates, when I read it, it said that generative AI has great potential to change lives of people in unimaginable ways. It is possible to create new ideas, services, products that will make the lives of people easier, productive, and creative. When I read that, I was thinking, isn't technology supposed to do that? Isn't it supposed to make our lives easier, creative, and productive? And when was the last time Bill Gates said that? When I went back and checked, this was the first time he had said it for generative AI. So generative AI gets that quote from Bill Gates. So that's very interesting that he predicted that this technology would really create waves for generations to come. And then I was reading a report from Synergetics, which said every dollar that you invest in generative AI will give you $3.5 back in about 12 to 14 months. And then I was also looking at a survey from Gartner that said the gains from AI is more experience and less to do with volume, output, and tasks. So all of this inputs, I think, made us all think as to what strategies should companies really adopt, what should companies really do in a phase where employees are really jumping into adopting generative AI, considering the entry barrier is really low. And to drive an adoption that is guided by guardrails, leaders and organizations really need to design strategies that are apt not only for their business outcomes, but also to keep the industry pace alive and make sure that the ecosystem and the customers and their own employees are going in pace with generative AI. So with that, gentlemen, I will get started. Why don't we do a rapid fire and break the ice first? Over to you, MSR. I'll ask you the first question. What is the coolest thing that you've generated with, or you created with generative AI?
Well, not me personally, but one of our startups at T-Hub. One of the challenges we've seen with many of our startups is they're all very good technically, but they really struggle to figure out how to get the messaging across, right? And to create interest and all of that. So one of our startups has actually built a platform where you put in, it'll ask you a bunch of questions, what are you building and whom are you building it for, etc. It actually gives you an 18-page template, step-by-step execution on how to build out a content management strategy, how to do search engine optimization, etc. And within less than 2 months of launch, already got 150 plus customers. So clearly they are doing something good.
Excellent. Anshuma, what is the funniest response you've ever got from a generative AI app?
I think very funny responses. The best part of generative AI is that it's really creative. But when I was trying my hands at it initially, I asked it to personalize a fairy tale for myself. I just said personalize a Cinderella story for Anshuma Singh, and that was one funny response that I got, wherein instead of the ball, there was really a science and tech expo where this Anshuma Singh, who's supposed to be a very techie person, goes in, and instead of the Prince Charming, it is the CEO of Applied Materials giving me an offer. And finally, it's not the glass slipper, but it's actually some AI cool glasses that I lose. So it was so funny and hilarious to read it. You all should go ahead. Within 2 seconds, you'll just see the kind of personalization it'll do and have a nice fairy tale for yourself. So that was really funny.
Nice, very nice. Ashish, if AI were to be your chef and cook a dish for you, what dish will you ask for?
Okay, I'm a very bad chef, by the way, but still, if I go ahead and choose AI, I would rather get how to get in especially because I'm in India and that too in Bangalore, how to get in bisebele bhat or maybe sweet pongal out of that. So that will be fun. And nice. I did try that, by the way, before I came in. So I chosen Llama, the recent model, because I think the Meta is all famous for the last 1 week for the stuff that they have done, especially in the parameters and the work. I did try to go ahead and bring a combo of lasagna and how do you do that as a pongal. So how do you mix that up and create a recipe, unique recipe out of it? This is what ChatGPT does well, right? You get your creativity out of the best, which you cannot do as a human. So
I'm not sharing the dish with you. No way. Tanay, would you get relationship advice from AI?
I have a few friends sitting here, so I better be careful of what I say. I keep saying in my MBTI, I'm an I, so an introvert. So you do end up going towards ChatGPT, at least to begin with. And when it started, my wife was definitely impressed with the poems and the ditties I was writing. But the downside is that now, even if I give a good compliment, her response is this ChatGPT? So I don't know on the relationship side.
Ashwini, if AI was to give you any answers on your future, what would you ask?
Yeah. I think from the hat of, being from the consulting world, maybe ask about how do we make generative AI responsible? What does it take to reduce cost? Can you show me that, magic bowl that can tell me some of those things on exactly how to do it? Because I really see this as, one of the tools, but how do I actually use it responsibly? How do I actually reduce cost, right? There's no one answer that is the right answer. If it's creative mind, I'm assuming it will give me the right answer for, each situation.
Thank you. All right. So as we see, I think though generative AI is a technology, it is not only impacting technology and operations, but it influencing a lot of, whole lot of other players across the industry and many industries. And we as GCCs, I think, are trying to really put our arms around everything that's happening around Gen AI. And a new code definitely is evolving because all of us as GCCs have had innovation strategies, transformation strategies, and are we able to keep the strategy same and evolve? Probably the answer is no, and that is why I think we would be discussing for the next 30 minutes on what is a really new code that we are all trying to help evolve as GCCs and help our parent organizations. So the first thought that I had is all about, as GCCs are progressing to become innovation and transformation centers for their parent organizations, how is generative AI really help build those capabilities and from a solution aspect? And also, what are the challenges really involved in implementing Gen AI into our strategy? So, MSR, can I ask you the first question?
So I think some of what I'm going to say is probably a repeat of what you heard in the sessions before. But obviously, I think there's a lot of work being done on automation, increased use of automation, becoming more efficient. Obviously, new product innovation, new service innovation. And we're also seeing a lot of work on enhancing customer experience, etc. Right? Also, we see, for example, particularly in some of the life sciences GCCs, see a lot of work being done on how Gen AI can be used to accelerate drug discovery, etc., and healthcare and so on. So I think we see a lot of opportunities for obviously data management, data analytics, etc. So customer experience, data analytics, and so on. Yeah, and challenges, of course, many. Starting with obviously, in fact, this morning, I don't know if you saw the Llama. There was a comment about the latest Llama 3. About it showing issues around, biases between American women and Indian women. It was there in the morning today. So I think security, privacy, ethical biases, cost, because some of these things, I think even the first session today, we were talking about how sometimes the cost seems to be much more than you initially budgeted for. How do you also integrate with what you're already doing with your legacy systems? How do you address the talent issue? How do you upskill your people? Because there would be concerns about redundancy and so on. So I think plenty of issues to talk about and think about.
Anshuma, what's your view?
Yeah, so I'll probably give a perspective from my world, the industry that I come from. First of all, the statement that GCCs are trying to be now the new transformation hubs, I think we've already achieved that with respect to Gen AI. Within our organization, I'm very proud that the Center of Excellence for AI, for Gen AI, is really in India, and we are driving it across the globe. So I think we've already got a seat at the table. Those were the days when we used to raise our hands and we used to say that we are there, but now we've already got a seat at the table, a voice, and a strong voice at the table. So how we're embedding it into the organization, coming from a semiconductor equipment organization, every phase is really, has Gen AI embedded. There's no particular area. Right from the design and prototyping, whether it is, the design acceleration, or it is the performance optimization because of, the cost, or because of the power consumption, manufacturability, we have Gen AI there. Coming from design to manufacturing, the detection of defects, anomalies, etc. Even the simulations are led by Gen AI. Then coming to the predictive maintenance, a lot of it is the root cause analysis and the dynamic work instructions when the people are working in the fab. We are able to help with that. And then the entire supply chain, the forecasting, the inventory, and even the predictive inventory management, all of that is enabled by Gen AI. A lot to do with R&D as well. I think all of us have been speaking about it. Even material management and other new kinds of material that we are exploring that has access. There are very different aspects which are there in our industry, and the challenges are unique. I wouldn't, reiterate the ones they're already there, already mentioned, but data privacy is a big thing for us. We have very highly sensitive and proprietary data. And it's like, the mindset that we come from, put everything into a cage and put 100 locks there. Then one by one, you'll open a lock. So that's the kind of environment we work in. And therefore, that becomes a big challenge. The other thing is the right kind of skill set and talent. I think a couple of days ago, we had a huge conference where we were looking at startups in the Gen AI space. A lot of good work is being done here with respect to BFSI, tech ed, healthcare, etc. But particularly in the semiconductor area, we don't see startups here in India. So that is something that we are really looking forward to. And then the next one is really the legacy systems being a manufacturing kind of organization. The culture aspect of it hits us. That's a big challenge. It's like, people used to work in cubicles and then came the linear seating, so that's the kind of switch we have to have within our organization. So these are the kind of challenges that we are dealing with, but I think a lot of progress is being made and the India GCC is playing a big, big role there.
We have such a diverse panel. A consulting view from you, Ashwini.
So, since you said a consultant view, right, and a lot of good things already spoken. See, the way I look at it is, if we take an analogy of building a car, right, there are tools that people build to build a car, right? You may be building an ADAS system, you may be building, the next gen engine. There are people who are using those components to build a nice car, and then there are people who are using the car to commute, to provide services, to provide the Ubers and Olas and, I think the clarity on what am I really doing and making sure that it can be brought together for that purpose is really required without losing the purpose of or understanding of the purpose, which is it is about the car, right? So, so if I simplify that into Gen AI, it really means, is it about building the large language model that can do its stuff? Is it about knowing how to, bring together a large language model, a recommendation model, by the way, the guardrails? Oh, I need to know whether the car was a petrol car or a diesel car, so where is my data? What is the data that I am going to, is it going to run on the car going to run on US roads or India roads, given the traffic, given the road situation? So, and that is where my use case becomes really, really important and my data becomes really, really important. So yeah, being able to organize for that purpose and having clarity on which of these three am I really, playing a role in without losing the purpose of the car, knowing the use case and understanding the data that I am sitting on.
Thank you. Thank you. The next question is more for the GCCs, Tanay and Anshuma. The question that I really have is, Gen AI is ushering significant changes in business metrics in terms of, how we see efficiency, productivity, and, how transformation is happening. So in GCCs, my question to both of you would be, what are the new, how are GCC really gearing up to create these new frameworks to address these metrics adoption? If we want to achieve those, what does a GCC, specifically in India, really need to do to gear up?
So, and I'll try and bring in a flavor from the industry that I represent, and which is really insurance. And if I really look towards the past few years, the entire insurance industry has gone through a lot of challenge post-pandemic, and multiple reasons. Inflation, if I'm talking about the US market, inflation, supply chain disruption, catastrophes that are coming in. And so profitability was a key challenge. And today for Gen AI, if I pivot it towards Gen AI, that efficiency and effectiveness to bring profitability has definitely having an overshadow. And what I mean by that is, as we have progressed on our journey with Gen AI towards achieving some of those business metrics, as we ideate new ideas, as we are using Gen AI to really define what are those high value opportunities that we are going to be tackling with, we find quite a few in the direction of efficiency and effectiveness coming in. And in insurance, as you can guess, and I'll pick an example, like bodily injury, God forbid if there is a bodily injury that happens in an accident, those cases can happen over 2-3 years. And even in the US, it's very document intensive. Whether it is labs, whether it is hospitals, whether it is doctors, at times when you really look towards all the documentation, it's like in thousands of pages. So summarization, that being a use case that we are seeing quite effectively coming in for us, bringing in a lot of that efficiency. Whether it is with respect to freeing up our medical practitioners, our doctors, rather than trudging through those 1,000 pages, how do you really use their time towards providing insights and being able to capture a 3-year period across multiple documents in there as well. Or even on the legal side, even on the legal side, we see a lot of opportunity coming, or even in IT. Like we have a very active GitHub Copilot that's running in there. All of them, my only caution there is that in the list that's coming out, I think we are constrained by our own thinking more than the tool. And our thinking is by default towards that efficiency, effectiveness, and that even if it's a 30%, an incremental benefit that we are getting out of it. So I would say not in that prioritization of high value and accelerated, we'll also have to be very cautious that by default we only don't head in this direction. You don't want a Bofors in your backyard or in your shooting range. So we'll have to find that right opportunity in which we really use the tool. But that's been our experience.
Yeah, so I think, from my perspective, the GCCs are really driving the charter in this particular case. And the kind of frameworks and things that we are doing is, one, playing at the strategy level. First of all, I think almost every organization has an AI, ML leadership team or a council or things like that. The GCCs have a seat at the table and they are driving things. Then coming at the foundational level, everything to do with data, whether it is the data infrastructure or data governance, a large part of it is being played by the GCCs. And then the actual value add is because the GCCs boast of almost all the different business groups present in one particular area, we are able to do a lot of innovation and pilots here, and then scale it up to the larger organization. So being the enablers for the organization with respect to innovation, and particularly in our sector, we have a lot of customers in the Asia region. So the India GCC is really playing as one of the enablers for the Asia region, and one of the big use cases is around, language translations and those documents and other things that you were talking about, even the patents and IPs, and all of that is being enabled. So I think a lot on the innovation portion and being the enablers there, that's the role which is being played. In fact, the good news is that we have a very vibrant ecosystem, so the GCCs are able to leverage that ecosystem and the kind of partnerships. We've always had partnerships with the leading universities, but I've never seen them the way we are doing now. We are actively going and seeking these partnerships. So that's a huge framework from the top to the bottom, where we are plugging in all those gaps to be able to really enable the larger organization. So I think that's what the GCCs are doing.
Excellent presentation. I want to bring forth the industry disruption that's happening across supply chain, and even within the organization, most business functions, whether it is HR, operations, technology, most business functions are getting disrupted, which means that there is GenAI implemented at scale. So to me, I want us to speak to the audience about what is the playbook for really implementing GenAI at scale. And I'd like to ask the question to Ashish first.
Sure, thanks, Prabha. Prabha, I must call it out. I attend multiple events globally, so Hong Kong, UAE, and others, and I must say that the India ecosystem is amazing, especially if I compare that with others, right? So I've been outside and walking around, and was looking at how good stuff is going on here. So this is super amazing. Very, very excited to actually go through the entire panelist and especially the kind of attendees that we have here. So congratulations and hats off to everybody. See, the playbook that you just asked for, I head in the Gen AI and the AI function in my recent capacity, and I'm transitioning as well. So of course, this has been my passion from the day one. I build in solutions from my side. I have a home garage where I go ahead and pick up the solutions and experiment and try to go ahead and innovate across that. And especially the locations that I support in globally, I've always made sure that we have an innovation sandbox environment and labs to go ahead and play around with these things, because COVID got over, 2022, OpenAI dropped a bomb. Right, and of course there was GPTs and stuff like that, and then everybody got into the race, whoever they are, wherever they are, whatever organizations they were, including Mr. Musk and Mr. Nadella, and everybody all started off with that. Now, we thought we will pick up the chain, all the organizations, including the GCCs and the banks and the corporates and all across, and we said, okay, fine, let's start building up prototypes across that. Now, nobody thought, where is the data, right, and what's going to be the data around that. So sandbox environment, stage one certainly has to be the prototype where you go ahead and use in the synthetic data, sample data for that, test out the technology, whatever models that you're talking about, let's say large language models, very common term thrown across in kind of Gen AI, small language models or a narrow language models, whichever we do. We work on narrow language models because that's the one that most of the organizations should start off with, considering that you're not trying to go ahead and explode the entire universe. It's just that you're trying to go ahead and focus on some bit of an elements, especially searching out the documents or the PDFs or whatever, risk franchises or legal compliance use cases across globally and things like that. Once you definitely do with that part, you just decide whether you want to partner with somebody outside who has a white label solution for that, or you go ahead and pick up a solution which you think you can build. Now, I know Anshuma just did mention about the skill sets, which was a very good, important point. Now, I'm from the legacy times where I have coded on C#, C++, and all those days. I mean, I'm sure most of us have actually done that. Now, machine learning was the one AI element for me that I said, okay, I am an AI expert because I code on machine learning and I write forest or maybe these algorithms on that. But things evolved, changed after this. RPA came in, and then you have deep learning and neural and stuff like that that started off, and now we talk about models and billion parameters and tokenization and things like this. these elements have to really be more mature with time, is what I personally feel. Every morning I get up, I open the LinkedIns, and I have a couple of communities that has been enrolled all together, where Mr. Altman is also the part of some of them. Whatever I have read last night, I think it's all evolved. Things change in the morning. This is how it has been. So it would mature, and I feel that we as an organization, as a GCC, I think we have to wait for the app time, let it settle down. Till then, experiment, enjoy, learn, and make sure that you are ready with the data compliance, legal data security and privacy and other things to launch that and get your customer side or your staff side in a better fashion.
MSR, sir, so what are the startups really doing to help GCCs implement the playbook?
No, so I think there are now close to about 700 plus startups in the GenAI space, and there are one or two of them building large language models. But there are a lot of vertical use cases we see. So for example, in the banking space, fraud management, KYC, in the security space, obviously, lots of startups doing very interesting work, in terms of threat detection, etc. So across the board, be it in life sciences, banking, financial services, be it in healthcare, we talked about manufacturing in terms of predictive maintenance, in marketing, content generation, etc. So there's a lot of activity, and I think just to complement what I think Anshuma said, one is the partnership with academic entities, but also I think there's a deep need for GCC leaders to also start actively engaging with the startup ecosystem.
Does the consulting world have similar opportunities to help the GCCs implement the scale that we need?
Yeah, I think I'll go back to what Anshuma said, right? When we are working with GCCs, you do find a lot of right people that you need to make this successful in one shop, right? In one place, be it the data, teams, the people who understand use cases, people who actually make it real, like the IT teams, etc. So frameworks that, as part of one of my roles in Tredence, was also shaping our Gen AI strategy along with the CEO, etc. And the way we have framed it is, it's about foundry and factory. Foundry where you design the use cases using Gen AI, but making sure that you are putting the right emphasis on data. So you need the data team there. You understand how do other AI components come in, etc. But then the factory is really where you actually build the LLM ops and make sure things go live. And all of this getting done for the use cases that you want to implement, right? So I was speaking with a few GCCs. If you want to implement it for IT support across multiple use cases, versus if you want to do it for back office, and mid office, what differences are there given your ecosystem? So how do you then create the factory in a manner where it can support multiple use cases, right? So yeah, I think, and being able to do that with GCCs, being there, it's become significantly easier because you can have multiple discussions during the day with teams participating. So yeah, I think some of these frameworks to make it real, GCCs could really be the accelerator that could power it.
The customer experience is definitely our core for all of us, and they're getting redefined by customers themselves. So, question to you, Tanay. What new innovations are there in the banking and insurance areas that we're really looking forward for customers to experience in the coming months?
Sure. And I'll probably take the insurance part of it. And slightly different from banking, insurance customers don't usually call their insurance company. And if they do call the insurance company, it is at a time when they are stressed, they've met with an incident which is really not good, they are traumatized. It's either in the PNC industry, it's either a car accident, God forbid, bodily injury, or your weather condition has blown away your house and you're trying to figure out where you'll be spending the night in there. And so time and customer experience, this is the moment of truth as far as customer experience and insurance is concerned. And at that FNOL stage, that first notice of loss, when somebody is calling, they aren't necessarily in the right state of mind. And most of the time that ends up is where they want a quick resolution or a solution to be able to get there. And so we see, and we are already in those stages within the industry and for ourselves as well, but there's a lot of investment that's happening to build that customer experience. And imagine that situation, which is how we are looking forward to it, that when the customer is calling, your ability to not just be able to capture that information. And I'll give you a live example where we have a QFC, which is quick photo claim. You take a video, you take a photo, you upload that, you call or call Allstate and be able to respond. But it still requires manual intervention of somebody estimating and responding. But now you have an opportunity where just by looking at the picture, GenAI solutions we are finding will be able to give us the entire estimation effort on the go and be able to help them, point them towards our good hands resource network to say where they should be going, where there is an availability. Today in the US, availability of workshops is difficult. So to be able to find at that first point where you are sending them and then providing them with that car to help them run. Without a car in the US, you are stuck. So to provide them with the car itself. Now what also GenAI is doing, which is where it gets interesting, is, that's reminding us, it's interesting is, on top of it, crash detection. So Arity, which is a telematics company for Allstate, has implemented crash detection. So the moment you are hit, even before you are calling us, we are on the fly really figuring out how we should send rescue towards your way. And not just medical help. If it's requiring, depending upon the severity of the crash, also figuring out whether you need a tow or whether you actually need just a replacement car to be coming in. And so much of that is actually helping us improve our experience on a day-to-day basis. It's actually happening for property as well. You know, now we are dispatching, or we are looking to dispatch drones the moment some of this is happening. Because we have all your data as far as where you are, we know the weather condition, we know what is really happening. So the moment you call us, a lot of this is coming in. So I feel customer experience, there is a clear opportunity of disruption. To me, this is that high value impact area that we are talking about.
Would you take a minute, Ashish, to comment on the banking sector?
Yeah, so I think insurance, yes, Katie's rightly said, drones and everything has been going in real-time evaluations and I think situational part. See, Prabha, I think numerous stuff have been tried out in a prototype stage, in a POC stage of how GenAI can get a personalized experience for a client's customers, especially HNIs, private banking customers and others. Private banking launches are now these days fully loaded with GenAI tools and GenAI apps where you can go ahead and get yourself sitting in a yacht after 25 years of retirement in mid of it with your wife and your kids, and I think you are just trying to imagine and putting about $100 million out of that. So this stuff is going on. There is a big element of GenAI usage on risk, audit, compliance, legal that has been brought in, especially for the internal, I would say, banks that we are using in which they are trying to automate the financial crime and the legal and other perspectives, looking into the KYCs and eKYCs, CKYCs, PKYCs, perpetual KYCs. So stuff like that has been going on where experimentation can be huge, and I think there's lots to really discuss that. RM management, other area, very quickly, I think time's up and I think I have to wrap up as well. So RM management can be other good way where we can really go ahead and utilize the GenAI perspective and see how then we can reduce the workload and get the more efficiency of the RMs and all. I mean, I can talk about it for hours and hours, but yeah, these are some of the things that I can feel, Prabha, that can be a quick ones to pick up.
Prabha, if I can just get 10 seconds, I think like banks, insurance is also a very regulated market. So you hear that excitement in my voice, but the regulators and the governance, there's a lot to play there as well.
All of us. Yeah, that's a necessary evil. So thank you so much. I'm sure we have questions from the audience, but considering we've exhausted the time, we'll have to close here. Thank you so much for all your views, and I hope we've been able to do justice to the topic in terms of creating a new code for innovation and transformation using GenAI.
Thank you.